welcome back to another episode of the Boropolis Podcast. As always, we are joined with Nathan. I'm in a different location. I'm back at uni, but obviously the same podcast will be continuing. Whether we're happy in these podcasts, judging by recent results, is another matter. Nathan, apart from the recent result, how we're doing?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, I'm still a few weeks away from going back to uni yet, so my location won't be changing for a good few weeks yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, it leads us nicely on a Saturday, to be honest, because me and Nathan saw each other before the game, and I mean, to say that my day had got off to a bad start Saturday would probably be underselling it a little bit. Yeah, bless him, my dad. He'll be watching this. Just another apology to him because we drove down, got to the front door of the uni house. I'd forgot my keys.
Stinker.
I mean, terrible from me. Amateur from me. I mean, nearly as amateur as some of the defending that we saw on Saturday. But yeah, we spoke about it just before the game and said, you know, the only thing that's going to make things better, lighten the mood a bit, is a Borough win. I mean, I'd predicted a 3-0 win in the preview, and I couldn't have been further from what the actual game was like. We'll just get into it, Nathan. As you can tell, I'm still frustrated by the result, to be honest.
I think everyone will be, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course. So, Nathan, I ask you always about the team when it come out before the game. It was unchanged from Forest, and to be honest, I think everyone sort of expected that, really.
Yeah, just pretty much the short and sweet answer, really. I think unchanged after the performance in midweek and the result. I think you can't have any complaints, really. And going into this game, you look for more of the same from what was going on in midweek.
Yeah, as you say, obviously we'll hope to continue the good performance from Wednesday, and obviously there was talk of a little bit of, you know, Warnock out after Coventry, but then we got the win and everyone was sort of just getting back on side. The new players had played, Sparard scored, and then, I mean, yeah. We'll delve deeper into it once we've gone through the events of the game. So, I mean, the best place to start really is Tavernier's opener. I mean, firstly, I just want to say, I'm sure that was offside.
I've just rewatched it back there on EFL on Quest, and the referee and the linesman have had an absolute stinker with that. So we've took a short corner, Hernandez to Tavernier. Hernandez lays it to Saliki, who puts the ball in the box. Blackpool push out and try and play an offside trap. Peltier wins the flick on, and if he doesn't, Fry's onside, but he does, and it's blatant to see the touch there.
Yeah, there's an obvious. It's not just like him or anything. There is quite an obvious touch, isn't it?
Yeah, and then Fry coming in at the back post, squares it across to Tavernier, and we're 1-0 up, which was very strange, really, considering how early it was in the game and to see a referee in error pretty much in the first 10 minutes. Yeah, I mean, we were lucky to be 1-0 up with that, but we'll take it.
I almost delayed my celebration, to be honest, because I was like, surely his flag's going to go up. It's got to go up. It's got to go up. And then it just didn't. And then I thought, well, yeah, I better celebrate now, to be honest. I also had a little giggle to myself when it went in, because who else but Marcus Tavernier after the last week?
I know, crazy. I was with my brother, and I'd said how funny that it would be him. I said it would be him that to pop up with the goal. But as we say, the numbers, the underlying reason why I made the comment, and I did make, and a lot of fans agree and disagree for that reason, but 1 goal and an assist in a week is changing everyone's opinion, I think.
Yeah, of course. I think Tav has probably not been listening, but, you know, who's to say that maybe he has been. His run of goals and assists, maybe that is the case, Nathan.
Yeah, I mean, just hopefully he continues it and then he continues to shut me up.
Fingers crossed, Nathan. Yeah, so moving on in the first half, and we went very close to doubling the lead. I think it was Tav again, good work down the right. laid it off to Sparrow, and he rattled. I mean, it was pretty much where the bar and the post meet. I thought it was a goal and it just bounced straight back off. A great effort from Sparrow.
Yeah, it'd have been brilliant for him to finish that, but just those fine margins, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it was a case of fine margins all day, really. Obviously, with the Piero effort in the second half, and there was a few times where we were just ever so close to just nicking the ball and getting that goal, but it wasn't to be. And I mean, for me, first half, I think the tempo, the performance, I was really pleased with it. I thought we looked really threatening every time we attacked, and it was, to be honest, where we left off from on Wednesday night. I thought, well, the new players are having an impact again. It was Siliki's cross, obviously, that Pellier flicked on, and we scored off for the Tav goal. And yeah, we looked a lot more fluid going forward, obviously, with Crooks playing slightly off Sparrow and then Tav from the right and Hernandez on the left. It just looked like a real threatening front four. And then really, I think the game changed, and I know it probably seems like we're skipping over the first half quite quickly, but the first half was good. There wasn't really anything from me, or I'm not sure about you, but I didn't really pick out anything that I was disappointed with in the first half, to be honest.
No, I didn't think Blackpool had many chances to threaten on us in that first half either. I thought going down the left, Hernandez was fantastic, continuously beating his fullback and trying to put balls into the box. Of course, Tavernier was doing the same on that right-hand side, created the chance for Sparrow. But barring that Sparrow chance, I can't really remember us having another one, really. Like a clear-cut chance. I can't remember one that had come to me. So, yeah, without those, of course, the goal, which is offside, and the Sparrow chance, I think that those were really the only chances in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a good place to leave that, to be fair, because I mean, first half was good. We should probably talk about it longer because that was the only good part of the match, really. But I mean, yeah, we've got to get into the nitty gritty. And I mean, the game was spun on its head, really, for me when Anthony Dijksteel went down injured. It looks to be his hamstring, and we're yet to find out how long that's going to be for. It meant that obviously Tavernier, who was spoke about, had to move to right back. And I mean, there's just, for me, the obvious question is, why was Howson not moved to right back? He's played for us there before and played very well there, in fairness. I just think the decision was probably wrong. I know Warnock has his hands tied in a certain way because obviously we didn't really have another right back on the bench. But I mean, that creates one question in, should we have let Jed Spence go? But in another question, do you think that moving Tav was the wrong decision?
I wouldn't really say so because he has played in wing back. I know we were only in a back four on Saturday, but he has played in a wing back role prior to this season for us. He played in pre-season at wing back a few times, just deputising in that role, really.
Yeah,
but
I remember him playing wing back like at the start of last season when we were with the five quite a lot, playing from the right. So I mean, yeah. I can see that, but obviously it is a whole different ball game in a back four, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And I think the possibly the reason him not putting Howson in that right back role is we did have options off the bench for central players to come in there and play in that midfield too, but the ones in there usually try and get forward a bit more. Piero was one who was on the bench and obviously came on for Siliki, who's the one that would like to get forward, sort of thing. So I think keeping Howson in there was really his idea, to just sit in there, continue to try and break up play when they did counter on us. Because up until the point where Dijksteel got injured, I think that was really their first attack. Anderson from the left-hand side beating Dijksteel for a bit of pace, and he blocked the cross. But I think the game was changing then. That was their first attack, really, of the second half that I seem to remember. And of course, everything crumbled from that point on.
Yeah, I think that would be the best way to describe it, to be honest. And just speaking about fullbacks, in fairness, I thought in the back four, Lee Peltier was actually probably one of our better players on Saturday. I thought at left back, I mean, obviously he's not going to be a player that gets forward and, puts balls into the box. But defensively, considering, we earmarked him, Josh Bowler was probably Blackpool's biggest threat, is what we thought, and has been this season against a lot of teams. And I thought Peltier dealt with him brilliantly. But I mean, obviously, that is a side note. What we really want to talk about is Blackpool equalising and the sudden change of the tide of the game. Really, the Dykesdale injury, as we say, was the main point where I felt the game changed. And obviously, from that point onwards, Richard Keogh gets the ball, steps into a midfield when we were under pressure. I think it had broke back to him.
It was a free kick. It was.
Yes,
I've rewatched it. It's a disgusting decision from the referee. I'm sorry. I know I'm battering the referees here, but it is an absolutely outrageous decision. And they made a big point of it on Quest, actually. Tavernier wins the ball in midfield. Perfect challenge. Maybe a slight little nibble before winning the ball, but it's definitely not a free kick. And he gives a free kick. And the referee had went over to speak to Warnock moments after giving this, and they take a short one. Keogh puts the ball on the other centre half's foot. I mean, I can't describe what he does, but fantastic play from him. Rolls fry like he's not even there and buries one in the corner.
I mean, yeah, the goal scorer was obviously Blackpool's other centre half. And to be honest, I'm saying goal scorer because I am slightly concerned about pronouncing his name, to be honest. But yeah, it was a great finish from the Blackpool centre back. I mean, the touch, the turn, and Dale Fry was, touch tight and he still rolled in with ease, really. It was a striker's finish, but I think there's got to be question marks about defending there.
Yeah, I think so as well. Just a strange goal, but it's one of them where you just knew it was coming. I think from the free kick being given, I thought to myself, and I turned to my brother and said, "Oh, this is a blatant goal going to come here because of that decision." And I know you probably can't even remember it, but it was unbelievable. And I was up on my feet at the time of when the referee gave that decision. I was like, no way on earth is that a foul.
I seem to remember there was like a 5-minute spell where the referee just got every single decision wrong. And at one point, Warnock pulls out his famous hands behind the head and is just standing on the touchline, just in utter disbelief at how bad the referee was. And it wasn't so much that he was given decisions wrong against us. He was given wrong decisions for Blackpool as well.
Yeah.
And obviously then the chants start from, I think, both sections of fans, to be fair. You're not fit to referee, and it was fitting, to be honest, because for the full game, but especially that 5-minute spell around about when he gave the foul from Tavernier, it's just beggars belief how one referee can get so many decisions wrong in such a short space of time.
Yeah, and I know we're going a bit off topic here, but I know I'm sounding a bit like Neil Warnock, but EFL referees are the most inept I've ever seen in my entire life. Some of the decisions given against us in the last since probably about December have been absolutely disgusting. I mean, you think about the Fry one against Blackburn, that's just unbelievable. And then Swansea away was the worst refereeing performance I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And then some this season have been a bit iffy as well.
There's been countless, and it's not just, obviously, we watch our games, but you see them on social media throughout the week or on the Saturday night, and whatever club it is, someone's highlighting another bad decision from an AFL ref. It is just...
Did you see the one at Luton at the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, he's quite... If you do that in the street, you're getting a prison sentence. for no reason. And I think he only got a yellow card for it.
He did, and the other player got a yellow as well.
It's just, I'm actually running out of words to describe how bad some of the refereeing decisions that we see week in, week out. Oh, I mean, yeah. Henry Lansbury just decided to try and kill. I can't even remember who he kicked.
I think it was Ryan Manning, possibly.
Yeah, it was actually. It was Ryan Manning. Yeah, I remember seeing that now. Just, we're going off topic, but I mean, he is literally, if he struck the ball with as much power as what he struck Manning with, that's flying into the top corner, and it's probably a great strike, in fairness.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, anyway, enough about referees. We'll get back to the game, and yeah,
from one mistake to another catastrophic mistake. The corner comes in at 1-1 from Blackpool, and I'm just not quite sure what Grant Hall's trying to do. It's bounced off his head and gone in for the own goal. Blackpool take the lead. And again, obviously you've watched it back and I've watched it back. I watched it back this morning, and I'm not even sure what position he's trying to get himself into, because, you know, that is one of Grant Hall's stronger parts of his game, his aerial ability, and he's almost falling back. I don't know whether he's lost his footing or whether he's trying to glance it, but it's just, he's got it horribly wrong, and yeah, it's ended up in the back of our net. It's not great.
On my viewing on the replays and rewatching the highlights, from what I gather, the ball's come into the box. I can't remember who Tavernier is marking, but it's just to the right of Grant Hall, and in a little bit in front of him as well. And Tavernier has jumped, and it's almost as if Grant Hall's not expecting the ball to.
He sort of just hits him.
Travel through. It just hits him, and he's not. He doesn't look ready to head a ball away. He just is standing there, not expecting the ball to travel through. Which, as a Championship defender, I think you've just got to expect something to happen that may or may not happen. You've just got to anticipate that the ball will travel through, and that the player in front of you is going to miss the ball, which he doesn't do, and the ball just ricochets off his head, and that's us 2-1 down.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, at any level of defending, and I mean, it doesn't take a Championship centre-half to tell you that you should be anticipating danger, whether it be your man or whether you are simply just there to head the ball away. He's got to anticipate it and just realise that there is a chance the ball could fall in. I mean, he's just flat-footed, and as we've said, it just sort of hits off him and goes in. So it is one that he definitely won't want to see back, and I definitely won't want to see it back after seeing it in the flesh, and then watching it back this morning. It just put me in a bad mood again, to be honest. But one thing that did slightly improve my mood, Martin Piero came on the pitch on Saturday. He got a slightly longer run out than what he has done previously. And I mean, the moment that we have all been waiting for as fans, the ball falls to him on the edge of the box, and he unleashes an absolutely delicious curling effort that rattles the bar. I mean, it's very sad that never went in, because the ground would have just erupted.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that it didn't just kiss the underside of the bar and just drop in. But yeah, again, we've said it, fine margins, unfortunately. Things just haven't seemed to have fell for us this weekend, of course, with Sparra and Piero both hitting the bar. But just a shame, unfortunately. But he was very good when he came on as well, looking to make things happen. He got forward very well, whipped a good free kick towards the near post as well. And one of the things that I enjoyed the most was he made a recovery run about 25, 30 yards, sprinting back to try and make a tackle, and he won a tackle just in front of me, and I sit in the West Stand. But fantastic. He looks like a real good player, and hopefully he gets more minutes under his belt, and I'd like to see him start next week at Reading.
Yeah, I think the thing that I love the most about him, and it's something that I used to really criticise George Saville for. I often felt in especially when you're a centre midfielder, but just using Saville as an example, I almost felt that sometimes he went missing and sort of didn't want the ball. He sort of, if you play football before, you can tell when someone's hiding, and I felt that he used to do that. But one thing I love about Piero, he passes it off and then he wants it again. He's always got his arms open and saying, I want the ball, I want to try and make things happen. And that's the biggest thing that I love about him from what we've seen. Obviously, he does have quality, and as you say, he delivered a great set piece that almost snuck in at the near post. But that's one thing that I've noticed, and I'm sure everyone else has, that he's so willing to get involved and get on the ball that it's definitely an exciting prospect, him getting more minutes.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And as I say, I think next week we should be seeing him in that starting 11, really, with Warnock's comments in the past few weeks saying he was going to start at Coventry, and then at Forest and injuries kind of disrupted that a little bit. I think next week's the perfect opportunity to give him his chance.
Yeah, I think you're right, Nathan, to be honest. And it sort of leads us into the question that I have in my notes about the Blackpool game. What did go wrong, and what would you like to see change for the next game? Because it is difficult to pinpoint. Obviously, the referee is the easy option, and obviously it is one that Warnock tends to go to if we do lose. I mean, he does love blaming the referees, but it's not all the referee's fault. It's not the referee's fault that, Dale Fry's been turned and Grant Hall scored an own goal. But yeah, I mean, he was poor, but we can't keep on blaming referees.
No, you can't. No, you're right.
I think the Dijksteel injury, of course, has disrupted us as well, but it's all about in-game management, and it certainly does raise questions as to whether Warnock has the in-game management that we're going to need, because we already have a thin back line. But if we are going to be missing the likes of Bowler, Dijksteel, what is he going to do moving forwards, and how are we going to get around the fact that, we only really have a team full of centre-halves at the moment?
Yeah, it's a very, very strange predicament that we're in, I think, with the complete lack of fullbacks after sending 2 out on loan with, three if you include Jack Robinson. Nathan Wood could probably do a job at right back, I'd say. He's got pace, and obviously he's built quite well as well. So he could deal with the physical attributes of the Championship. I think sending him out on loan, yeah, fair enough. It's a good move, but we're so short of fullback options at the minute after sending Spence and Coulson as well. And of course, I think it was pretty much written in the stars that after sending those 2 on loan and not replacing them, we would be struck with injuries. And of course, we're only 6 or so games into the season, which isn't great at all. But I think looking forward to Saturday in Reading, I think we really need to look at probably going to have to go with House in it at right back, really. Of course, played there under Tony Pulis a lot, which is quite unfathomable. But he does a job in there, and we're really, really struggling. So we'd have to be with a back 4 again. Fry and Hall in there, but Hall's running very low on confidence, I think. And not only that, but I'd seen him the other day. A ball got played. It was in the first half. A ball got played down the channel for John Jules to run onto.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
And I could see. I was looking at Hall's face, and I could see him struggling to run. He was favourite for the ball.
In his eyes, knowing that John Jules had about 10 yards, and he knew he was still getting to the ball first.
I know, and I could just see Hall like panic. You could see the panic in his face, and he lunged and luckily did win the ball. But I don't know. We really struggle for pace in that back line, and I think the quicker McNair's back, the better, really. But yeah, it is strange to pinpoint what went wrong, because we did have the odd few chances, but it's just silly goals and silly mistakes, like a lapse of concentration from Hall. So we go 2-1 down, and the first goal is just poor defending, really. I think on all parts, letting the ball go through to the centre half at first, and then Fry just gets rolled, which isn't the best as well from a championship centre half. But these things happen, unfortunately, and we just need to move on. It's a strange one, because I still can't figure out really how we did lose the game.
It was complete Jekyll and Hyde, wasn't it? I mean, first half, I thought this is what we've been waiting for. You know, all of the front forwards linking up, Siliki, Howson in midfield looking really good. I thought the balance of the team just seemed right. And then in the second half, it just sort of disappeared, really. I don't know what was said at halftime, breakfast was getting the blame a few weeks back. So maybe they had a few cereal bars and snacks at halftime that have gone down wrong, and that potentially could be to blame. I mean, just quickly, what do you think about the whole breakfast scenario? For me, the first thing that I would have thought, for players especially, and a Warnock type of manager, if a player is not going down for the evening meal or the breakfast or just any meeting or just general lateness, I mean, not turning up altogether, just have an extra hour in bed or whatever is the scenario. But I mean, how does that even happen? Surely there should be a fine in place if you're missing breakfast. I mean, it is quite a vital meal when you're going to play a championship game later on in the day.
I don't even know what to say. It's just a strange one, isn't it? I think if you're missing from a meeting or missing from, I don't know, like a scheduled squad meal or something, I think you probably just do need some sort of punishment.
It's almost laughable. I'm literally waiting to laugh, because it's just, I never thought when we started this podcast that it would be talking about Marcus Tavernier and Isaiah Jones' breakfast choices. I mean, I'm saying them, it might not be them. That's just pure a guess. That doesn't mean it's them. It could be any of the squad. I honestly have no idea, but that was just an example before. We're saying it's them too that haven't been eating the weird.
You dropping Tavernier in it now?
Yeah, it's my fault. Yeah, and he doesn't eat his breakfast.
You must have been the only one that ate it the other day, as you said on Twitter. You must have been the only one that had it.
Yeah. Him and Lee Peltier, to be fair, maybe Lee Peltier.
Yeah, Peltier was fantastic the other day.
What type of breakfast do you think Lee Peltier has?
Concrete, with some of the tackles that were going in the other day.
Yeah, I think he just eats raw steak.
For breakfast.
Yeah, I actually quite like the thought of that, to be honest. Maybe he should start feeding it a few of the other centre-backs in the team, not naming names.
God above. Yeah. But in terms of what needs to change, I don't know. We need fullbacks that are fit and just to work as a unit again. And that second half, I think defensively we just looked a bit disjointed. I think the midfield weren't breaking up play as much as they were in that first half, and yeah, we suffered from our own mistakes, as I say. So I really don't know what needs to change. We need to finish chances when we get them. Of course, fine margins meant we didn't this weekend. We only had the one that we put away, but hitting the bar a few times. But we need to have more clear-cut ones, I think, because 3 a game and you miss 2 isn't enough, unfortunately.
Not enough. Do you think that potentially, I've just thought of this now, to be fair, do you think there's got to be question marks about our training schedule or our fitness staff? Because it does seem like since Neil Warnock has been at the club, we've had so many injuries to key players as well. And I know Neil Warnock says, a lot of the time that most managers would probably be surprised by how much time that his teams get off. But it just seems, it might just be complete bad misfortune, but we have had so many injuries over the 18 months or 2 years really that Warnock's been in charge, and it does raise questions as to why it keeps on happening.
Yeah, I think it's a very strange one. I think during Warnock's time at the club, Dijksteel in some of pretty much most of the months that he's played has been one of our better players, but he misses huge chunks of the season from pulled muscles and daft niggles that he gets in training allegedly.
Yeah.
Baller has been injured in the past through issues like this. And he's allegedly injured now. Fry's suffered. It's a very, very strange one, really, isn't it?
I think all of our key players, you've pretty much gone through the spine of the team there in the back four. I think Howson missed a big chunk.
Tav as well.
Tav has had injury problems all of last year, and even at the start of this season had a few injury problems. And without, speculating, it can't be just continuous bad misfortune, because are we that unlucky that just all of our players seem to get injured at crucial points? There's certainly questions to be asked, and hopefully that can be solved going forward.
Say Warnock will probably come out in the presser ahead of Reading and say that Dijksteel didn't warm up correctly for the second half, so that's why he got injured.
Well, maybe, yeah. There's untold amount of excuses that seem to be getting reeled out over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I think now would be a good point, to be fair, to move on to the comments from Twitter that we got. Obviously, we tweeted out after the game, and it's always funny to see, because we pretty much tweet it immediately after, and obviously everyone's full of fire after a result. Maybe his opinions may have sort of simmered down since then, but yeah. The first one from Paul Metcalf was, we asked what is going wrong at the moment, and he simply just replied, a change of management is needed. It's cutthroat from Paul. It's very to the point. I can't believe I'm asking the question, but Nathan, do you think Paul's right? Do you think it is time that we need to change manager?
I'm not fully convinced yet, but I think the stats speak for themselves. Last week it was 9 wins in 33. This week it's 10 wins in 35. That's not good enough.
Yeah, I think I also saw a stat that since Wayne Rooney's been at Derby, he's picked up the same amount of points as Neil Warnock, and considering Derby's struggles last season, it is frightening, to be honest.
Well, I don't want to pick out Derby as the club to bully, but they're above us in the league table currently. And I think anyone that that they're above in the league table need to seriously have a look at themselves.
Yeah, us included. I think that speaks for themselves, obviously. And fair play to Wayne Rooney and Derby. They're going through such a torrid time off the pitch at the moment. Praise to them, but also to us. As you say, we just need to have a good look at ourselves at the moment and try and figure out what is going wrong, because we've brought in signings. Derby were frantically looking to find people off the streets. At one point in the transfer window, 5 players. So something needs to change soon. And obviously, for me, as you say, I don't think it is Warnock out yet, because obviously we do have new players and they need to gel in. I just think it would be too early, because of the fact that we need these players to have a chance and for Warnock to work it out. And
yeah,
as you say, I think it is too early, but if it does get to January, I think I said it in the last podcast, if it gets to January or Christmas time and things are still not looking any better, then maybe it would change my mind in that sense.
Yeah, and I think just touching on that lastly, I think if we go and win that game on Saturday again, then it's 2 wins on the spin against no disrespect to Blackpool, but 2 sides that you look at and think we should go and beat them, with Forest struggling the way they were, and then Blackpool, who were newly promoted, battered in the week. You think, oh, brilliant, 6 points there, 2 wins out of 2 on the back of a poor performance last weekend at Coventry. And then all the Warnock out shouts from Coventry are silenced. So
yeah,
it's just a strange one. Maybe it's a bit reactionary from Paul, but there seems to be a lot of people that are giving the same shout. So
yeah, I mean, Paul has talked about a change of management, but to be fair, the theme of the assumptions that I did pick out are all to do with the manager, to be honest. So the next one from BK was, we play well when the ball's on the floor, but there just seems to be no midfield. And to be honest, it's sort of, that comment for me just reflects the absolute change of how we played in the second half. And I think that is somewhat to blame for the result, really, because first half, as we say, we were, looking to find wingers, looking to play quickly and be dangerous and everything that we wanted, really. And then it seemed like, and it would be interesting to see the stats, to be honest, it seems like we just played so many more long passes in the second half with really no success. And yeah, I don't know why, just going back to the game again, I don't know why we dropped so deep. It felt like when Dijksteel went off that, we'd had a man sent off.
yeah, we just invited them onto us, I think.
Yeah, and just obviously talking about playing the ball on the ground, I think it's a very good point, to be honest, because when we did play the ball on the ground, I mean, there was a few spells. There was a Sparrow chance that I can think of where he went to ground, and I think he almost hurt his ribs, to be honest, trying to score.
Yeah, he did have a shot in that near post, yeah.
And I mean, that was a slip through pass, and yeah, we look more dangerous when the ball's on the floor. So I mean, going forward, it just needs to be less long balls. I mean, for the good of my neck, to be honest, I hate going like that in the second half. I felt like I was just doing that all the time, yeah. But another assumption from Twitter was from Lucky Chivs, and that's a hell of a name, by the way. Yeah, he said, if this was someone other than Warnock, would he still be in charge? And I think, to be honest, I seen the comparison earlier this week, and it did make me chuckle, to be fair. And I think it's a little bit harsh, but someone literally said, Warnock is Pulis with a sense of humour. And I mean, I think that's a little bit harsh, but, obviously Neil, he gets the media on side, and he gets a lot of fans on side with his bubbly personality. But I mean, the results speak for themselves, I suppose. His personality and the results are 2 separate things, and obviously you shouldn't really be considering how much of an entertainment value he has in press conferences when you're thinking about the future of Middlesbrough Football Club going forward.
No, you shouldn't, but I'd just like to kind of shut that Pulis comparison down. I'd much rather watch Neil Warnock football than Tony Pulis football.
Yeah,
After watching Pulis ball for however long we had to watch it for, I can clearly say that Warnock's football is much better than that drivel.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about in the first half that we were, quite exciting to watch, good going forwards. And we had spells in other games this season where we've looked, a good team. But under Pulis, it was very, very rare that I come away from a game thinking, yeah, we were good in that 10 minutes of the game. I mean, that Blackburn, we won the game, but I think it was Johnny Howson at right back, George Savile at left back, 3 centre halves, Clayton. I mean,
Christ.
It was effectively a back 8 that day. And there was countless other results that you could probably pick out where we didn't get the 3 points and had, I mean, Jordan Hugo playing as a lone striker with literally a 25-yard gap between him and the closest midfielder at times. So, yeah, I think that comparison again is probably a little bit over the top. But I mean, yeah.
But yeah, just going back to that question there, if there was someone other than Warnock, would he still be in charge? I think you've got to kind of look at the full period of Warnock being at the club. I mean, we'd have been. I don't think this is a bad thing to say, but I think we'd have been a League One club last season if it weren't for Neil Warnock. Really, if Jonathan Woodgate had continued. Yeah. So there's one. He did keep us up. Last season was a bit of a strange one. We did go on a decent run pretty much up until Christmas last season, where we were in and around that playoff places and around that top half, but just kind of faded away. And maybe injuries were kind of the problem during that spell as well. Dykesdale was out for a rather large period of time during that spell. Tavernier was out from Millwall away onwards last season.
Fry obviously was out as well, and I think that, to be honest, that derailed our season last year through injuries. And I mean, it's not really like there's anything to derail yet from us this season. Or the same sorts of niggly injuries again. So yeah, obviously we raised that question earlier, but injuries do seem to be a problem, and that is something that the club or the medical guys and the staff do have to look at going forward, because we can't keep on missing key players. And obviously Dykesdale, he might just be an injury-prone player, but it's not just like it's Dykesdale. It is, as we say, Tavernier, Fry, and other players that we have mentioned.
Yeah. So just saying there, would he still be in charge? I think looking at the full tenure, yes, because he is in charge still. Looking at the 10 wins out of 35, I don't think any manager with the squad that we have really would be in charge after that sort of run, really.
Yeah, and to be honest, obviously, you have to factor in things like the way that Steve Gibson goes about his business, and he is not really one that is quick to sack someone. I mean, there was probably 3 or 4 times under Jonathan Woodgate where he could have gone and he got an extra national break or an extra game and then turned it around with a win, and it sort of went away again. But I don't think, unless we, from this point onwards, go on a seriously bad run, I don't think that war would go until at least January time. I personally just can't see it. And obviously he's got that connection with Steve Gibson. They get along very well. And I just don't think that he would sack him so early on in the season. I personally just don't think it would happen.
So even if I was just going to spark a little bit of a debate with you, Chris, say we go to Reading next week, and get beat comfortably, not by scoreline, but we just get played off the park, and then we go to Hull the week after and get beat again, and then there's an international break. If you look at the table, we'd probably be in and around that
bottom 3, to be honest. If we get the next 2 games,
I know. So there you go. That's another 6 points there that would be dropped. If we do that, would you be a bit more leaning towards Warnock out now?
Nathan, you throw me under the bus here, because I hadn't actually even thought of that possibility. I didn't even want to, but I mean, yeah, you've hit me front and centre here, so I best answer it. I mean, do you want this answered from my perspective, or from a perspective that Steve Gibson is our chairman and he is pretty much best friends with Neil Warnock?
Just give us both. Yeah, give us both.
From my perspective, if we lose the next 2 games, and as you say, that'll have been 3 defeats on the bounce, going into an international break, which is always a big reason as to why clubs change the manager, because they do have that spell.
Sorry, I've missed a game. We've got Sheffield United in that as well. So say we get beat there as well. So there's the 4 games on the bounce.
About 4 defeats on the bounce. Well, at that stage, I think, yeah, he would have to go. And obviously, we are, looking forward. I don't want to say anything because I said I thought we'd beat Blackpool 3-0 in the preview. And what happened? So I don't want to rule out anything. But if we do go 4 defeats on the bounce, or even pick up 3 defeats out of the 4, I think it would be a case of, I think it would be best for both parties if it just come to an end. But yeah, I don't want to be drawn into that just yet. Because it hasn't happened yet. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, and I'm sure Steve will as well. Let's move on, Nathan, because just putting me in an even worse mood. We're trying to talk about Blackpool, and I'm already in a bad mood about the result. But I mean,
next question here as well. Next question. Next question.
What purpose does Warnock serve Stein? And I mean, I'm putting this one on you because you've put me under pressure once just there. What purpose does Neil Warnock have Stein? Try and sell Neil Warnock to me.
Try and sell Neil Warnock. I mean,
I'm not selling quite literally. I don't want to buy Neil Warnock. As to why he should stay as Middlesbrough manager.
Why he should stay as Middlesbrough manager? Well, quite a few of the players that have been brought in, you're looking at Crooks, Peltier, who's looking to play quite a big role at the moment with injuries. Uche, I know he's almost like second choice, but I think that Warnock did have some sort of influence in Spirra coming in as well. So with these players coming in, I think Warnock does need to be given the time to utilise those players. And another reason to kind of lean towards him continuing is the development that he instilled in Dijksteel, who is now injured wonderfully, and Bowler, who's also injured wonderfully. And I think Fry as well. Fry has certainly improved under Neil Warnock. So those are the reasons for. But going kind of with the question, what purpose does he serve?
I feel like over the course of this podcast, you've all of a sudden leaned more towards Neil Warnock potentially, or just talked yourself into it, to be honest.
Yeah. What purpose does he serve Stein? He wants to see his career out.
Yeah.
That's genuinely the reason. You don't want to end on a sour note.
Yeah, I mean, it's all of a sudden become very negative on this podcast, but yeah, like, I mean, let's face it, until probably about 10 games to go last season, there was a realistic chance that we were going to get in the playoffs with a much, I think it would be fair to say, in terms of quality and numbers, a much worse squad.
Yeah,
that might be controversial, but I personally think in terms of individual quality, we have a better team this season. And of course, under Woodgate, as you said, had Neil Warnock have not come in, we would probably be a League One team. So I think given that, he certainly deserves at least until January, unless the unthinkable happens and we go and lose 4-5 on the bounce, which, yeah, I mean, let's just...
horrible. It is a horrible thought, and I'm sorry for bringing that in this podcast.
And yeah, I mean, ironically, the last comment that I've picked out from Dan Ward simply just says, I wish people would get off Warnock's back. Now, I mean, how fitting that was the last one, because, he said in his comment that he left that people have got to be more realistic, and obviously he mentioned the fact that he kept us up, and without him we would probably be in God only knows what division. And also the fact that people, I mean, this was his comment, obviously this was Dan's comment that he left, that he thinks people potentially want success too quick, and that, we should be more wary of what potentially could come after, and obviously bearing in mind the way the club is run and the finances, that Warnock is someone that brings more good than he does bad to the club. I mean, what do you make of that, Nathan?
Well, I think first of all, you have to look at what do you define as success. We're currently 6 or so games into the season. 1, 2, lost 3 now. QPR, Blackpool, Coventry. That's 3, that I can remember.
And obviously Blackpool in the cup as well.
And Blackpool in the cup. And we've just drew a few games as well. But for me, going into the season, didn't necessarily expect us to just go and absolutely wipe the floor with the league, because I think if you thought that way, you're kind of just silly, really. But to be in a similar position to what we were last season, I think that would be kind of just ideal, really. You'd want to be there at least. You of course, you want to improve season upon season. So I think many of our fans were looking towards the playoffs. And of course, it isn't too early, because it's happened in the past where teams that are dwindling in mid-table at Christmas go on a miraculous run and get into the playoffs and cause quite a stir.
We've seen that. It could just be a case of, obviously, I know there is the stats about, last season moving into this season and the defeats and things like that. But obviously, if we're just looking at it solely from this season, we are only 6 games or 7 games, I think it might be. So I know it is dangerous to look at it solely based on this season, and you do have to factor in last season as well. But playing devil's advocate a little bit, I think it's still very early on, and it might take. We might go to Reading and win, and we might then follow that up with another win against Sheffield United, win again. And I'm trying to put a more positive spin on it now. We could go and win 3 games on the bounce. Whether I think that's going to happen or not is a different story.
Yeah.
But it is football is a business where I think if we do win 2 games on the trot, then everyone's sort of back on side and thinking, well, maybe we're probably a bit too early judging and making, the Warnock out claims.
Yeah, I agree with you, but wish people would get off Warnock's back. If you just look at that there, after the performances in the last week, I just say, well, why? What? Why should I get off Warnock's back if I am on it? Like, we got absolutely.
To be honest,
I know
It sounded like you were quite literally on Warnock's back.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like a monkey on his back. I know, just sat on it, but no. I'm just imagining being piggybacked by Neil Warnock.
Let's get that idea out of it. Nathan, why should you be allowed to be on Neil Warnock's back?
Being in the crowd at Coventry last week, I think watching that performance, anyone that weren't upset and quite angered and frustrated by that performance I don't even know. It was a horrendous performance. Moving into the week, you go away to Forest and win. And we played okay. We had a few chances, put them away, and punished other teams' mistakes. This weekend we go 1-0 up and our mistakes are punished. Really, I think that the inconsistency does come from, of course, the team.
Nathan, next up for Middlesbrough is a trip to Reading, 12:30 on Sky Sports, and obviously we'll be hoping we get the 3 points, hoping that things get back on track, and hoping that a few of the Warnock out brigade are, what should we say, upset by the result. I'm sure no one wants us to lose that much that they actually want Warnock to go, but I mean, you never know sometimes.
Yeah.
So firstly, I think one player that we have to talk about is John Swift, top goal scorer in the Championship with 7. And I mean, this season he's just been absolutely on fire, to be honest.
Yeah, 7 goals and 4 assists as it happens. So that's unbelievable figures for this stage of the season, I think, as well, considering he's a central midfielder. Although he does get forward, those numbers are outstanding. And he's been taking control of Reading, really. Lucas Shaw played a big part of their successes last season, but he's been ruled out with injury. And Yaku Mete is another man that plays a big part in Reading's attack, and he's been ruled out with injury also. So Swift has stepped up and has certainly proven himself to be one of the better players in the division so far.
Yeah, and another player who I like watching as a neutral, to be honest. And to be honest, I think ability-wise probably is up there with one of the better players in the division as well. Ovie Ejaria, now, his dribbling is always something that scares me whenever we play against Reading. He goes past players with ease at times. And obviously, he got the brace in their win against Fulham at the weekend. I mean, what sort of threat is him and Swift going to give us?
Yeah, Ejaria on his day is one of the best players in the division. He's a very fun player to watch. I think that's fair to say. He's a bit unorthodox with his height, but so good with his feet. And he scored a perler at the weekend against Fulham, whipped one right in the top corner. So hopefully he's not on his day this Saturday.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, that's the last thing we need if he turns up and has 10 hours. One last player I just want to talk about. I mean, whether he'll have as big of an impact as what John Swift or Ovie Ejaria might is probably questionable. But I mean, we did talk about the Baba Rahman bandwagon earlier in the transfer window. And I mean, how excited are you to see him?
Oh, I can't wait, but I hope Tavernier toasts him.
It froze again, Nathan.
Did it?
Yeah. Right. Okay. It seems to be back on. It was just a split second. We'll just go Baba Rahman. Okay. Right. Right. 3, 2, 1. Another player that I'm not sure will have as much of an effect on the game, Nathan, as a John Swift or a Ejaria. Baba Rahman. Now, we had a little laugh and joke about the Baba Rahman bandwagon earlier on in the podcast. I'm sure anyone that watches or listens remembers. But yeah, I mean, his move to Middlesbrough never materialised. Are you looking forward to seeing Baba again?
We could do with him because we need that left back cover. But yeah, we won't be on it this weekend, and hopefully Tavernier has him on toast. But yeah, be funny to see.
Yeah, it'll certainly be funny to see, considering how big we'd built it up to be, and then it just never happened.
Well.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope he has a bad game and then regrets joining Reading and, I don't know, joins us in the future maybe, as we've been linked with him enough times. So, in terms of the game at Reading, would you call this must-win? Is it at that stage yet?
I think if we don't, then a lot more fans will be vocal on the Warnock out, and I can't believe we're talking about Warnock out, but yeah, many will be more vocal, and it'll probably convince a few others, depending on how we perform, because of course we could play really well and just get unlucky and lose it by a daft goal. But yeah, I think going into the game, we need to go there and try and inflict ourselves on Reading and try and take the game to them and create chances and win the game.
Yeah, well, I mean, fingers crossed. In terms of the team, obviously, barring any injuries, we haven't really had an update as to how the likes of Paddy McNair and Mark Bowler are, so it would be difficult to say really. But are there any changes that you would like to see from players that we saw at the weekend?
Not necessarily would like to, but I think Dijksteel being out means we need someone to fill in there, and I think with Dijksteel being out, I think that could involve either Howson or Tavernier dropping in there, and Piero, I'd like to see him come in from the start. As we spoke earlier, I think it is probably his chance now to come in and make an impact, having been mentioned to be in the starting 11 for Coventry and Forest, but injuries did disrupt that. So hopefully he gets in from the start, and one of those chances for him, like on Saturday at Blackpool, finally drops in and we have a goal from Piero.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? It definitely would be. Would be a long time in the making after his transfer took about 7 months. Being injured, played about 2 minutes as a sub. So yeah, it would be nice for something to fall to Piero and just, kickstart his Middlesbrough career. And I mean, hopefully for the game at Reading, it kickstarts a run of form for Middlesbrough as well. Just finally in the podcast, there's one last thing I want to touch on. Just this morning, we've been credited with an interest in Robbie Brady. Could he be the solution to our left back problems?
He's a strange one. Of course, he played left midfield at Burnley quite regularly, but suffered quite a serious injury that kept him out for around 9 months, I think it was. And since coming back from that injury, he hasn't really been featuring all that much for Burnley, and was he did. I don't think he was even released. He just left at the end of his contract at Burnley. But yeah, I'd certainly be looking to have him in. He's got a fantastic left foot in terms of his delivery into the box, and I think any left-sided player to bring in and play in that left back role would be fantastic at this moment in time, which would mean Peltier could be shifted back in at his usual position at right back. So I'd love Robbie Brady at this moment in time. Really, I think any someone that could do a job would be much appreciated for Neil Warnock at the moment.
Yeah, I think just about, as you say, anyone with a left foot or anyone that can just play left back or has played left back at any level of football would take at this current moment in time. So, I mean, maybe me or you might get the call up soon. I think it's that at that point, we just need someone that is willing to play, to be honest. So,
I know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll wait and see whether we get the call up or not. Obviously, we do have the podcast to do, so it might change our opinions.
Yeah, it might disrupt it a bit.
Yeah, we might have to just knock them back if we got asked to play Nathan. Yeah. So, I mean, what I thought that is to finish the podcast on, potentially me or Nathan lining up at left back against Reading. God, that is not something that anyone would want to see. But yeah, finishing up on the podcast, as usual, thank you all for watching and listening. Make sure to leave your comments, tweet us, and as we say, give us some kind words to read on the review section of Apple Podcasts, because it does help other Borough fans find us. So yeah, once again, thank you, Nathan, and thank you for watching and listening to another episode of the Boropolis Podcast.